Hello, my name is. This video defines the different approaches that I use, that you may see other people advertise that they use. So you have some clarity on what they do and how they might best serve you. There's a lot out there. There's a lot of people promising you the moon, that you will be without pain, or you can get rid of your tension, or you can neutralize stage fright. All of these things can be addressed. They can be. And the things that I'm going to go through with you today, it's a brief explanation and then an experience so that you see how they are useful. And then you can choose what best suits and aligns with your needs. So, first of all, let's take Alexander technique. Alexander technique is considered a mind-body approach. There are two kinds. Alexander technique that's traditional is one-on-one or in a class that's live. So it involves touch. Primal Alexander, developed by Mio Morales, is something that you can do online. It does not involve touch, and it integrates higher functioning and use through the mind. So a good example of Alexander technique would be playing with where your mind is. For example, if you wanted to get rid of a pain in your shoulder, one of the things you may do to do that is take the thinking that you have from the shoulder and place it elsewhere. Bring your attention maybe above your head. And it uses a certain type of thinking, which I won't get into right now, that allows you to bring more ease, more awareness, but also to use your mind in ways that provide your body with more ability to respond in the way it knows how to respond without you interfering with it. So Alexander technique is wonderful for use and for function. So if you have tension in your playing, if you are somebody that has postural issues, or you have some kind of interference in your using your muscles in any way, Alexander technique is really useful. It is not designed for psycho-emotional issues, is not designed for something like imposter syndrome or stage fright. That requires somatic work. It requires more coming out of the body. And one of the biggest misconceptions about somatic approaches like Feldenkrais or somatic experiencing or mind-body centering or sensory motor psychotherapy, these are all under the larger heading of somatic work. What they do is they take the soma is the body, they take the information and the wisdom that's in the body to understand what's going on in the mind. When we have an experience, we experience it somatically before we experience it cognitively. With split second, we aren't fully conscious of a reaction before the reaction has occurred. That's called a trigger. We can have a triggered reaction. We haven't thought it through. We just do it, and then we realize what we've done. Somatic therapies are really useful for addressing not just pain, tension in the body kinds of things, but also psycho-emotional issues. So if you have tension because you have a triggered reaction to something, somatic therapies can address that directly. They can go to the root cause of that. Another thing that somatic experiencing in particular focuses on is trauma therapy. So if you have something that you're carrying around that you haven't processed appropriately, that you have perhaps some sensorial experiences in your body, stomach problems, heart problems, any kind of autoimmune diseases are often related to some kind of traumatic past. If you have any of those kinds of things, of course, it's not a medical procedure. It's not part of the medical community, but it believes and serves you based on your entire embodiment of that issue. So it does not isolate the issue as being just mental or just physical or just emotional, but it takes the way we respond to something and reverses it. We unlearn it and relearn better ways of responding in the same way we developed the behavior that we're trying to neutralize. So somatic work, that's why I'm doing somatic work, because I think that for musicians and artists, this is what we need more than anything, because it does address the whole body and mind and soul and spirit in a way that some mind, body, and mindfulness exercises do not. They're just not designed for that. Mindfulness exercises would be like meditation, Buddhist meditation, or transcendental meditation, and practices that support that way of being. Presence work, mindsight work can do that, the work of Daniel Siegel. So that mindfulness is a mental state, it's a mindset. It does not cure ills, but it provides a beautiful space for change to occur, a safe space for any kind of transformation that you're wanting, that it can't do the actual transforming. And then NLP and CBT, ACT, DBT, where are all these letters? These are all cognitive approaches to learning, to therapy or counseling or coaching situations. So CBT is one of the most common. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. And NLP, the other one that I'm certified in, is neuro-linguistic programming. They both deal with how you use your mind. How do you think? Your reality is based on how you think it. What you think becomes your reality. Basically, the basic premise behind cognitive therapy. If you can do that, you can change behaviors. You can change belief patterns. Right? We're not going into the body. We're not doing movement things. We're not doing breathing exercises. We're not doing touch therapy or anything like that. It's all up here. So there's a lot of discussion. And NLP differs from some of the other cognitive behavior in that it focuses on how the brain works. We have two hemispheres of the brain. We have three, different levels of the brain. And based on that, then certain questions can be asked to bring out a certain suppressed part or less dominant part of the brain, to look at a different perspective on something. So, for example, this is very basic, but one side of the brain deals with language and the other deals with imagery. So if you're a language person, if you're somebody that thinks in terms of words, it may be more accessible to you. That would be considered a dominant trait to thinking in terms of imagery. So it would be good to balance that, to start adding to the words, not erasing them, but adding to those, to language imagery, so that you have as strong a sense of imagination as you do with the language. So bringing those together and integrating them. NLP can be used not just for therapeutic things like addiction, obsessive compulsive behavior, weight loss, those kinds of things, but it can also be used for memory. So strengthening memory is very useful. NLP comes from hypnosis. So a lot of the language is really rooted in that approach of hypnosis. So it's a little different than cognitive behavioral therapy or some of the others that I've mentioned. So the last one I want to bring up is, I didn't say body mapping. Body mapping is part of the somatic approaches. And so I wanted to mention that. The last thing I wanted to bring up is interpersonal neurobiology, which I'm also certified in. And it's a newer form of approach to healing that integrates all the mind, body, and mindfulness practices. So it has a meditation component, it has a mind component, and it has a somatic component. So the idea behind Dan Siegel's work, which is mindsight or interpersonal neurobiology, is integration of all your parts, integration of how you think, your belief system, how you feel, how you relate to the world, how you relate to yourself, and how you experience that in your body or in some other way, physically or mentally or emotionally, or all of it integrated. So you develop a sense and a connection with all of those things, and they align. How many of us have experienced that we feel one way, but we think another? The head and heart are not agreeing. That's a simple explanation of what mindsight does, is it integrates those so that they align and you're not feeling split. And one other thing that I wanted to mention is family therapy. And the most popular, most well-known one, and the one that I've had some training in, is internal family systems. It's Richard Schwartz. Internal family systems is parts therapy. If you've ever heard of parts therapy, that mostly comes out of Richard Schwartz's work. And that's when we start assigning personalities and entities for every part of our thinking. So we have the critic, and we have the manager, and we have the firefighter, and we have the protector or the child, or all those different voices that you hear in your head that are often arguing with one another. Once again, you're integrating those. You're becoming able to navigate that because you're more self-led. You're developing the self. So that's just a brief rundown of the things that are out there that you may come across on Facebook or see advertised somewhere. So you have some idea of what it is and if it's something that would be useful to you. So we did mindfulness, we did mind body, like Alexander technique. Feldenkrais is considered also mind body, but it also has somatic elements. Somatic elements, the body. So somatic experiencing and the psychotherapies like sensory motor psychotherapy, those are somatic. They deal with the body and then rewire the mind and the neural system. Polyvagal theory is part of the somatic system. So polyvagal theory, if you've heard of that, and I have certification in that, it works really well with somatic therapies and being able to do that effectively. And then we did family therapy and we did interpersonal neurobiology and we also did cognitive therapies. So that gives you a little bit of a rundown of what is out there. Thank you.